Maybe we're starting early so we can get done early.
It's 6 o'clock.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Ted Martin? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Please join me in prayer. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day in the Ozarks. Father, tonight we invite you in these chambers as we do the business of the city, that all the business that we talk about tonight will be honorable and glorify you. Father, we also are thankful for Max, one of our city employees that's being recognized tonight, one of some 200 employees that serve our residents, businesses, and visitors. Father, thanks for this board, for their service as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Denham. Here. Skanes.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Hinton.
Here.
Whitus.
Here.
C.
Yes.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll start with the Employee of the Month, recognizing Matt Whitworth of the Parks and Rec Department as the Employee of the Month for July 2021, to be presented by Alderman Cooper.
Max, you're Max. Yep. All right. This is working out well so far. All right. It is my privilege to announce that the City of Branson's Service and Excellence Employee of the Month Award for July 2021 is going to Parks and Recreation Maintenance Worker Max Whitworth. This award is to recognize employees who have gone above and beyond and whose performance exemplifies the City of Branson values. Max is receiving this award because of his dedication to service and courtesy with whomever he comes into contact with. The Parks Department recently received a message from a Branson resident that pointed out how Max is always energetic, neat in appearance, and does things ever so nice as he picks up trash. This resident also noticed how Max always smiles, says hello, and waves every time he comes into contact with anyone. This recent message is indicative of what a great asset Max is and how he represents the City of Branson. On behalf of the Mayor, Board of Aldermen, City Administrator, and City staff, it is my honor to announce Max Whitworth as the City of Branson's July 2021 Service and Excellent Employee of the Month. How about a hand for Max?
Good job, Max. And now we'll start our public comment section. If you've signed up at the front door, Lisa will have your name. Lisa, do we have any speakers tonight?
Yes, we have two.
Two? Who would be
ready?
the first?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Our first speaker tonight is Nate Horseman. His address is 2550 State Highway 248, speaking on Delta. And just as a reminder, we have a 5-minute time limit on this, and we'll be giving a 30-second notice and a notice when the time is up.
Okay, real quick. I was under the impression that under the new administration, there was no time limits on public comments. I've been watching, I haven't seen any time limits on anybody so far, and my speech is well over 5 minutes. I would love to be able to give the whole thing. If you would please find it in your heart to let me do so.
Okay, let me just make a few comments. One is, at my very first meeting, after being sworn in, I read what our city code says. I know the previous administration had decorum rules, which were different, and so I felt it was more logical to go back to our city code. City code says speakers get 5 minutes, and then the aldermen have an opportunity to ask questions or engage in further discussion if they choose to. However, you are correct. It is important to me to openly listen to everybody. And especially since there's only 2 speakers tonight, How long are you thinking, Nate?
10 minutes.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say 45.
I don't know if I'll be able to make it through this.
Let's listen to what you have to
I'm a
say.
little more nervous and a little more,
Your Honor, for clarification, how do we do the timer on this, since we have a 5-minute time on that? Are we gonna you'll call it, or we just kind of make sure we get this right for you?
Okay, would you let me know when 8 minutes are up?
I don't know if it's 8 minutes exactly, but I just
10
want
minutes.
to be able to finish it.
You start. If you start rambling, I'll butt in. How's that?
Start carrying you out today.
Well, hopefully it's not rambling, but here goes. I'm going to do the best I can, try to get through this without exploding my emotions here. My name is Nate Horseman. I live at 2550 State Highway 248, Branson, Missouri. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and citizens of Branson. I hope that after walking out of here in April, I would never have to enter these chambers again. I cannot say that I have missed you, and I doubt that very seriously that you have missed me either. I am here today to once again highlight the severity of the situation of COVID in our community and ask, basically beg for your help. The current situation we find ourselves in is dire, and it requires immediate attention. It is my hope that you will listen to my words, take them to heart, and work with us to once again stave off the spread of this virus in our community. We have to do something. We can no longer pretend that this is not happening, and we can no longer ignore the fact that Branson is worse off now than we were during the worst parts of the pandemic. This is a plea for help, action, and leadership. I'm going to preface this by saying that I am not addressing Alderman Skanes, Say, or Whitus. I am addressing you, Mr. Mayor, and Aldermans Cooper, Denham, and Fenton. You all got what you wanted. The mask mandate is gone. That ship has sailed. But this virus is not, and the Delta variant is ravishing our community. Our neighbors are getting sicker at a faster rate than ever, and our people are still dying, and we must band together once and for all and act, or we are not going to have much of a community left. We tried it your way, and your way is not working. Your decision to lift the mandate with no safety net in place has only exacerbated the situation. I know you will disagree, but facts are facts, and data is data, and the data says otherwise. So let me once again start with some facts. Fact, the CDC currently shows Taney County as red, or high transmission, meaning that we are at or over 100 new cases per 100,000 persons in the last 7 days. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I stole that statistic from your most recent mayor's moment. Taney County is averaging between 22 and 30 plus cases a day. Those numbers are on par with the worst days of the pandemic, before vaccines were readily available, and it is my belief that those numbers are even higher than what is being reported for various reasons. But let's stick with the data that we have available to us from the Missouri Department of Health and Human Services, the Taney County Health Department, and our local hospitals. Fact, Taney County is a coronavirus hotspot and super spreader area, as is much of southwest Missouri, but our tourism makes us unique, and it's ultimately worse here because not only are a larger amount of our locals being infected with the Delta variant, our tourists are coming here and taking it back to their communities, and that makes us a regional and national super spreader. Who knows what we are contributing to the spread throughout the rest of the country? Fact, an average of 1 in 9 residents of Taney County have been infected with this virus since the pandemic began. That is nearly 10% of our population of this county. We are averaging well over 100 new cases a week, 129 in the past 4 days to be exact. That number is unacceptable. Fact, 108 and counting of our neighbors have died from this virus in less than a year and a half. That number should also be unacceptable to anyone with a caring heart. Fact, there are currently 127 patients admitted throughout Cox system, and since June 30th, 30 of those patients are from Taney County, and that is not counting the number of patients admitted at Mercy. These patients are younger, they're sicker, and they're unvaccinated. Fact, more than 99% of hospitalizations here and nationwide are unvaccinated people. Fact, out of 100,000 plus vaccines that have been administered throughout Cox Health, one person has required hospitalization, and they went home a few hours later. I'm going to sip of water here. Excuse me. The current positivity rate in Taney County is 20%, and it has been as high as 22% in the past couple of weeks. Just over 30%, of Taney County residents have initiated vaccine, and 25% of residents are fully vaccinated. The national average is 54%. that have initiated vaccine and 45% of the population that has completed vaccination. As of yesterday, Taney County was number 5 out of 3,143 counties in the entire United States for our daily COVID case numbers, and that to anyone living in this area should also be unacceptable. The bottom line is we're in a very bad way here in the Ozarks, and it's only July. We have to do something. The entire nation and even the world's eyes are once again upon us. Is that what we really want? Is that acceptable to any of you? We have been all over the national press. Even you, Mr. Mayor, were personally called out in Bloomberg Magazine, and we have even been the brunt of jokes on late night television this week. I doubt any of you are enjoying that. I know I am not. Is this what we really want after the last year and a half of national press? I mean, come on, what are we doing here? The White House coronavirus response teams are starting to arrive in the area. Our hospitals are full and understaffed to the point Steve Edwards had to put out a national plea for help last week, and thankfully, they have been able to bring in an extra 141 traveling nurses and respiratory therapists to help ease the workload from our local healthcare workers. Our healthcare heroes are tired. They are frustrated, yet they continue to battle this virus on the front lines. I read their testimonies and their pleas for help almost daily. They are getting basically no support from our local leaders and our state representative, who, along with our governor, just recently attacked the federal government with baseless and unfactual accusations. No one from the federal government is coming door to door to force vaccinations on anyone, and as some have claimed, they are coming to take our guns too. Personally, I'm not worried about anybody coming to take my guns. Anyway, they simply ask that local leaders, along with the community leaders and faith leaders, join together to help one another and assist in helping our communities stop this virus from continuously and rapidly spreading. We have to help them help us get through this. The conspiracy theories have all been disproven, the lies and the false information have all been debunked, and vaccines are the only way out of this. It's time for everyone to embrace the reality that we are faced with and work together to solve the problem. Vaccines are the only way. I know everyone cannot be vaccinated for one reason or another, but those that can should and be encouraged to do so by anyone with a voice. Alderman Cooper has asked me privately, and I have seen him state it publicly as well. What do you think the leaders of this community can do? The vaccine has been available for months, and everybody in the world already knows it. So me or anyone else telling someone to get the vaccine is not going to change their minds at this point. People have made their minds up. They are going to get it or they are not. This is a personal responsibility situation, and everybody has a right to make their own decisions. I cannot tell someone to get a COVID shot or to not get one. I understand that, and you're correct, Clay. You nor anyone else can tell anyone to do anything, and that is not what I am pleading for you all to do. What you and Larry and many other people of all facets of leadership in this community can do is simply acknowledge the science, embrace the facts, and encourage people that the vaccines are safe, that they are effective, and they are the only way out of this friggin' mess. I know you all are intelligent, rational thinking people. You are city leaders and business owners. I'm just a career restaurant server with an 11th grade education who is now driving Uber and Lyft just to pay the bills because you couldn't pay me enough to re-enter the service industry in this town right now. The horror stories I've been hearing from my people on the front lines have kept me from going back, and it's happening all over town in all sorts of businesses. COVID is not the only thing ravishing our community. The lack of workers has had a huge impact on this season, but Branson is still busy as ever, and the tourist dollars are still flowing. But at what cost to our people? Businesses all over town have been forced to close due to COVID outbreaks. Recently, even yours, Mr. Mayor. Almost daily, I get messages about this business or that business having 1, 4, 7, 12, 16 employees out with COVID, which is forcing businesses to close for even days and half days. Businesses have temporarily shuttered due to lack of workers, and this is not normal. This is not the Branson that I have lived and worked in for 23 years. COVID is not the only crisis, but COVID is the cause of it. And if we don't act now and work together, it's only going to get worse before it gets better as the season progresses. I mean, how much worse can it get? Yes, summer is busy and the town has been packed, but what's going to happen this fall if we are still in the same boat we are in right now? I know you hated the masks, so did I. This is not masks. This is a way out. This is the only way out. This is our shot to return to normalcy around here. It is not what we want. Is that not what we all want to get back to, normalcy? Together, we have to stomp out the bad stigma we are getting. We have to beat back the nonsense and the false information, and we have to make it known that disparaging our health department and our healthcare workers is unacceptable. Alderman Denham recently attacked the health department and accused them of, how did you state it, being irresponsible and at worst fear-mongering, stating that there has been a recent increase in cases in Taney County, but sharing that fact without the numbers or the context for the cases seemed irresponsible. You also stated that a recent press release from the health department directly attributed the rise in cases to lifting of mask mandates and social distancing requirements. Excuse me. I find this assumption to lack a scientific basis. Well, the facts are masks kept the numbers low last year, and also this year after our busiest spring break in years. It was only after the mandate was lifted that the numbers started going up, and Branson exploded from there. So yes, the mask mandate has everything to do with it, and if you look at the graph on any of the state and county dashboards, the trajectory of cases from April 13th to now looks like this. Just like that. So Alderman Denham, facts are facts and data is data, and speaking the truth is not fear-mongering, and being in the position you are in, you can pick up the phone at any time and call pretty much anyone you want and get all the data and the facts that you need. Attacking the people who are doing their ever-loving best to get us through this is ludicrous, and you should be ashamed of yourself and publicly apologize to Lisa Marshall and Taney County Health Department for your public comments. There's been way too much of this nonsense the past year and a half. Since when do we disparage and attack the people that are doing their best to keep people informed and healthy? The ones on the front lines battling every day to prevent sickness and death. Again, what are we doing here? The past is the past, and there's no going back. All we have is the present and the future, and we need to work together to figure a way out of this. This community needs you all, and it needs vocal support from its business owners and faith leaders that if you are able to be vaccinated, please get vaccinated. I also propose we find a way to reach out to the Hispanic community around here and bring them into the fold by translating factual information and vaccine encouragement, because after hearing from my friend Anna, who I might add herself has been battling this virus for the better part of a month, and quite frankly, she's not doing very well. She informed me that there really isn't a good platform for non-English speaking people to absorb the information needed to make informed decisions. Hopefully we can find a way to help them as well. I don't know what to do anymore. All I could think of to do is come back here and highlight the situation again and plea for some help. This community needs its leaders to stop trying to sweep all of this under the proverbial rug and stop pretending that we are not still in a crisis. We are the crisis. We are the national hotspot. I don't want to stand up here and say, I told you so, but I knew this is exactly what would happen. It was inevitable, and now here we are, right back in the thick of it. We were doing so well before the mandate was lifted and the tourist season got here. We were averaging about 5 cases a week, and the trajectory we are on now shows in the upcoming days and weeks that we will be averaging about 150 or more cases a week, and that is not sustainable. We are already being forced to ship COVID patients out of state, and Steve Edwards just the other day stated that the projections for the week of July 19th range from 153 to 178 COVID patients, and that is likely well beyond our capability. Delta is so highly transmissible, if not vaccinated, you are at tremendous risk. These are also facts. We are in a desperate situation, but one we cannot pull ourselves out of if we all work together. That is what communities do. They do not tear each other apart. Everyone believes that Branson is some tight-knit Christian community who cares about its people and the tourists that visit here, and it's long past time we start acting like it. Clay Cooper stated when speaking in favor of the shutdown last year, and I'm paraphrasing here, I couldn't find the video to get the actual quote, "If we don't do this, we are going to look like the stupid hillbillies that some people think we are." Well, unfortunately and sadly, that is exactly what we look like right now. Stupid hillbillies that cannot take care of ourselves. But this time, the eyes of the nation and the world are directly upon us. Little old Taney County, Missouri. Let's show the world that this is not who we are. What good are freedom and rights and liberty if we are too sick to enjoy them, or God forbid, dead? You all have no idea how much of an impact you could make if you would just step up. Local leaders all over the nation are doing it. You guys have just chosen not to because you're afraid of upsetting or scaring a bunch of people that live around here that voted for you. There are people of all walks of life in this community, and it's time to govern them as all of the people, not just we the people. We have to do something. Time is running out. COVID in our community is like a tornado sitting in one place, destroying everything in its path and leaving a city in shambles. But in this case, it is our people who are suffering. Thank you for your time and letting me speak. I will now leave you with a quote from Coretta Scott King. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members.
Thank you, Nate. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
We do. Our next speaker is Doug Clark. His address is 121A St. Andrew Street, and he's speaking on vaccine ingredients.
I'm not going to read all of this, so you can relax. I've been coming up here for quite some time trying to lay some, levity to what's going on here. My fear right now, above all, is that they're going to try to do the same type of propaganda that got us into the lockdown in the first place. You can see it coming. You can see the nightly news. We're the hot spots, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, any red state that they want to paint a bad picture of. It's news hype and propaganda, and for one, I get tired of seeing on KY3 the same empty COVID bed every night with nobody in it. Now, what I personally do is I surveil a lot of information in 1 week to see what the truth of all this is. And in Houston, Texas, this is one example. They have a group of nurses down there that are seeing what the carnage is coming in after people that have got the shot, what's happening to them. And they're having anything from cardio problems to Guillain-Barré dying 2 minutes after they get the shot, and what's happening is they're not getting reported in the VAERS system that the CDC prints out. So we're not getting a clear picture of the carnage that these shots are giving people. So I'm just going to talk about 2 or 3 items here. One of them is from Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Rush. He's one of our founding fathers. And he was worried that if we didn't put into the Constitution medical freedom, the time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship that restricts the art of healing to one class of men and deny equal privilege to others. The Constitution of the Republic should make a special privilege for medical freedoms as well as religious freedoms. Okay? Now he's saying that we don't want to let a bunch of people that have a conflict of interest or they're violating other types of laws in order to perpetrate a scare tactic to sell a vaccine. And that's what this has been about the whole time. And I can prove it. If anybody here wants to take the time to sit down with me, there's a track record for all this. And it's not just from some podunk people that don't know what they're talking about. There's scientists, doctors that have been questioning this from the beginning, and guess what happened? They all got censored. They can't get on Twitter, any social media they're blacked out on because they're controverting the status quo that they've been trying to sell. So I'm going to pass out a few things here, and I want to get my time stopped while I'm doing this. But this is Mr. Matt.
You need to go to the city clerk.
I don't have one for everybody, but there's also a statement by James Madison on what our property rights are. And surprisingly, one of them is the sanctity of our bodies. Those were the things in that document that said that you could not violate. You can't force a medical treatment on somebody that does not want that. You have to have consent to do that. And right now, what's percolating under the surface is forced vaccinations and tracking. They've already got some of these people up in Springfield that the government sent in to start this. If you've been in a room with anybody that has COVID, or supposedly whatever it may be, and it comes up, they're going to come check into your door. And it can go the extreme like it is in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. They're dragging people out of their houses. They're giving them shots. It's become anarchy in those 3 countries and somewhat in England. And I don't want that to happen here. I don't want people to be put in jail because an edict came down where they weren't a criminal before. Now they're going to become a criminal just because of some edict of some medical hierarchy. So that would be one of the things that I worry about this. And now, this is the criminal conspiracy case here against Mr. Fauci, the NIH, the CDC, and the violations of the antitrust laws that these people have done to sell this nonsense to everybody in this country. They've been doing it since HIV. And what this is the 27 pages of the case that's been used around the country to file lawsuits against the perpetrators of this, and most of it's the health departments, the governors, and people like that. And it's going to come clear down to the bottom before it's all over with, because there isn't any wiggle room on the violations that they've done on all these sections of the U.S. Code. Okay? And they will go to jail. That's what's going to happen to these people, because they violated the Nuremberg Code, just like we put the Nazis to death for doing what they were doing, experimenting without consent on people that didn't have a choice whether they wanted to or not. Do we want to do that here?
Your Honor, I just want to remind you that our time is up. I don't know how you want to handle it.
I got a few more little things I want to say, but the main thing here is there's some ingredients in these shots that are poisons. One of them is SM-102. It's in the Moderna vaccine. It works on the nanopeptide that forces the ingredients into the cell, and if you look up the chemical OSHA thing on it, if you get this stuff on your hand in the state, in the factory, it will kill you. Just a little dab on your hand. So the question is, why are they putting that in there? Well, it has a function for identifying bioluminescent luciferase on them being able to read that shot, whether you've had it or not. Now, I don't agree with that at all, because if you know the Bible, you know, it has some connotations of that. That's not the only thing they use this for. Bill Gates has got a patent 60606 that has a prong thing that they insert that in your arm for the same purposes. It's an illuminating chemical that makes that work, and the other one is called, it's an oxide that's got a magnetic capability to it. And what that is, it's in all of these vaccines. It makes the nanotransistors and the components in the vaccine, you're getting shot up with something that's going to be in your system, and they're going to be able to read where you're at, what you're doing, what your internal organs are doing. And if you don't believe it, look up some of the scientific data on this. It goes clear back to 2002. This just didn't happen out of the dark blue here. You know, so I don't know.
Excuse me, Doug, could you maybe wrap up in 1 minute?
Yeah, I mean, I can show you every one of these documents out of Science Direct. The CDC, the state of, the University of Texas is warning about these vaccines. 5 years ago, when they were running animal tests, it killed every animal they ever used it on to do an animal test. So why do you suppose they're not doing an animal test on these ones for emergency use? Because they know it's going to kill the animals. I mean, it does scare the ever-living crap out of everybody in this room if you go take the time to look at this stuff. And don't take your government's word for everything that they tell you that you need to do. You know? It's beyond my comprehension that people don't investigate stuff a little more than they are doing. Because you're not getting a really good decision-making process when you're browbeat on the TV every night, ad nauseum for the first 10 minutes. It's Cox, it's Mercy, then it's, you know, all the main media people. You know, I call up all the time and chastise them for you know, not giving an alternative view of this stuff. They just don't do it because they're all getting money for it. It's money-driven, and they're going to try to do this again. They're going to try to lock you down, and because it's a political hot potato right now, and because there's so much money involved in it, the people that are getting the money are not going to want to give it up. And the worst thing that I saw here last year is when the Cox people came down here, and they lied right to your face. The two people from Cox said there were no other alternatives at that time to give you for this disease. Well, they were blocking anybody in their two organizations from giving you hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin. And if you have a person that's getting this, when they first notice they get it, if they get one of those two things, they will be over that in 48 hours. And it's not too old medicines. They've been around 40 and 75 years each. Some third world countries take it every day. It's for, you know, a certain thing in those countries because they're not sanitized like we are. It's for parasites. And what is a virus? It's a parasite. That's why it works. And there's bucetamide, which is another thing which is an inhaler that shrinks down the bronchial tube so that people can breathe again. Most people are out of there in about 2 days. You know.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
So, but I invite somebody to call me up and sit down with me and take a look at this material. This is about 10% of what is involved in
That's all of our speakers tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't tolerate any derogatory comments for anybody to the board or anybody in the audience. How's that? Nate, I'm glad you came back. You mentioned my name several times, and some of the other aldermen. I guess one comment I want to make is, in my opinion, removing the mask mandate did not have the direct effect of what we're experiencing today, and I'm basing that only on one fact, and I am not a medical professional. When you looked at our Taney County 7-day average of COVID cases in the middle of April, when the mask mandate was removed, and you looked at the same numbers 30 days later, middle of May, end of May, same number of cases on a 7-day average. If removing the mask mandate was the spur of causing all this grief that we're in today, I think we would have seen it more quicker than 30 or 45 days out. And another correction, I know there was 2 aldermen and myself that you chose to call out, and it was a unanimous decision, 6-0 from the board, to remove the mask mandate. Final vote, 6-0. Thank you. So I have, for the record, I put out a public comment statement today, and I would like to share that. I wanted to take a few minutes today to address the ongoing COVID-19 situation facing our area and my thoughts about how our community can respond to the ever-changing landscape of the situation. First, let me state clearly and for the record, I will not support another government mask mandate, nor will I support a vaccine mandate. I did not talk about freedom and liberty during my campaign for mayor simply as a way to get elected. I championed those values then, as I do now, because I believe that each individual should have the right to decide for themselves how to best handle their medical decisions. With that being said, I want to reiterate a few statements I've made since the beginning of all of this. If you choose to wear a mask, I support your decision. If you're a business owner and you choose to mandate masks for your business, I support that decision. Same goes for individuals or businesses that choose not to wear or require masks for themselves or their businesses. Freedom means freedom to decide to wear a mask or not to wear one. No business or individual should be persecuted, blacklisted, or attacked because they disagree with your individual viewpoint on the mask issue. The wonderful thing about our country and our city is that we can disagree while still coexisting with each other. Ultimately, our consumers will decide where they want to dine, shop, and stay based on their own personal views on the issue. If they feel more comfortable patronizing a restaurant, retail store, theater, attraction, or any business that requires masks, they should be able to make that choice for themselves. Again, the same applies for visitors that feel comfortable patronizing businesses without mask requirements. Our community can and should decide for themselves how to handle their own medical decisions, and our visitors will do the same. Now to address the vaccines. I believe your mayor and board of aldermen should make sure our local community is informed of the availability of vaccines for those who would like to get vaccinated. The Branson area has 15 locations where vaccine shots are readily available and free of charge. If you want to get the vaccine, you can. I do not believe it's my place or the place of any politician to endorse, promote, or compel any person to get any vaccine. That's a decision that should be made by each individual in consultation with their doctor and their family. If you have questions about the vaccine and if it's right for you, you should ask your doctor. Finally, I do have one request, and I'll make of you the people. Be good to one another. Be good to those who visit Branson. Don't let temporary disagreements drive us apart forever. Whether you're masked or not, vaccinated or not, make smart decisions. Wash your hands regularly. Maintain social distancing when possible. If you are sick, stay home. And be aware of those around you who may think differently than you do about the issue. Be courteous, be thoughtful, be Branson. That is my opinion on where we stand. I think this is a medical issue. I think COVID is very real. I believe it's spiking in our area. I don't think a politician is the one to answer a medical question. If you have diabetes, please do not call your mayor and ask if you should take an insulin shot. It's a medical question. Before we move on to the agenda, are there any board members that would like to share an opinion?
I agree with that. I mean, I think that's the reason that we ran was to give people the choice to make that decision on their own. Nate mentioned that way back in the beginning when this all happened, and I did go right down there and was asking, and the reason I did that is because I was in a meeting at my theater with all the renters and tenants that rent space in my theater, and the news was on in the background, and President Trump came on and said, look, we need to shut the country down. And when he said that, I thought, well, this sounds pretty serious. In my life, I've never heard anybody say we need to shut the country down and assess where we're at. And I think anybody would agree, no matter where you're at this time, in the beginning, I mean, when all this happened, it was scary. I mean, I don't care who you are, Republican, Democrat, Independent, no matter what, it was scary. I mean, there was a lot of, stuff going on. There's people dying and the countries are shutting down, and the president just came on the TV and said, we need to shut the country down. So I made a decision at that time. Right then, we shut our theater down. I laid off 90 people, and we stepped back to see what was happening. Is it still real? Yeah, it's still real, but a lot of things have developed, and a lot of research and medicine and vaccines, and we're a long way from where we were from the day 16, 17 months ago that President Trump said shut the country down. So yes, I did say that in the beginning, but I totally agree with the mayor, and that this is a medical personal responsibility, and people need to make the best decision that they can. If a person says, I need a vaccine and this is the right choice for me and my family, then by all means, they should go get the vaccine immediately. But also, as Nate mentioned, some people have reasons for not getting the vaccine, and I think we should respect that as well. I mean, we all have different opinions, and we all think ours is right, but that doesn't mean everybody else is wrong. We all think, I mean, when Nate spoke, Doug didn't say something derogatory about your speech like you did his. And that's just, I mean, I'm just saying. It ain't BS, Nate. Your opinion is your opinion. Doug's opinion is his opinion. I don't know, man. I'm just telling you, this is. Look at us, man. Look at us, what?
That's enough.
Again,
That's enough.
I'm giving you my opinion, and you're blowing up. You're proving my point, Nate. I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I would ask Melody, I think Nate brought up a good suggestion about making sure we're providing a translation to those in our community that have a difficulty reading or speaking English. I think that's very fair. I think it's our responsibility to educate the people with what's going on. Saying all that, next is the
Mayor,
consent agenda.
Just one real quick
Oh,
thing,
you
just a
bet.
reminder, something I talked with Stan about. I received some calls from people saying they were wanting to go get vaccinations at Walgreens, Walmart, Target, and they went over there and they were told they were out. So there is a vaccine.com website. It's not that accurate, but people are being sent that. If the health department or somebody could be a clearinghouse for that information to help people out that are truly wanting that, they hit 4 or 5 places and they don't have any, it frustrates them.
Sure, that's the first I heard of that. Thank you, Alderman Gaines.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for your statement. I'd like to say I agree wholeheartedly with you. Thank you. And Mr. Horstman, I did not directly attack Lisa Marshall. The statements that were made on that page, I don't agree with, but I did not attack Lisa Marshall. I'm not ashamed for stating my opinion, my facts as well.
Thank you, Alderman Denham. Doug Clark raised his hand. He wanted to come back up, and I said no. Oh,
Well, Mr. Mayor, if
Yes.
we're on the consent agenda, I'm going to remove myself due to a conflict with one of the items on the consent agenda that was disclosed during our last meeting due to a business relationship.
that's fine. Thank you.
You gonna go get rid?
Is that where we're at now?
We're moving to consent. So next on the consent, next is the consent agenda. Are there any items that any member of the audience would like to have moved down from the consent agenda to ask additional questions or comments? Any items on the board would like to move down?
Like to move down item 10, Mr. Mayor, from the consent agenda.
And to place it as the first item on the regular agenda?
Yes, please.
Any other items? Madam Clerk, would you please read the items on the consent agenda as amended?
Your Honor, the items on the consent agenda are as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the June 17th, 2021 study session, June 22nd, 2021 regular meeting, and June 25th, 2021 joint meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Human Resources Committee minutes for the May 19th, 2021 meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Finance Committee minutes for the May 27th, 2021 regular meeting. And reading of Bill number 6014, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies for the Parks Fund for the additional expenses of tree removal and tree trimming. Final reading of Bill number 6015, an ordinance approving the addendum with Pro Lawn and Landscape LLC for tree trimming and removal services within the City of Branson, authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill number 6016, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies for the Parks Internal Service Fund for the campground Wi-Fi access points upgrade. Final reading of Bill number 6017, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies in the Fire Department Internal Service Fund for completion of the SCBA system replacement project. Final reading of Bill number 6018, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Commercial One Brokers LLC for real estate brokerage services and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill number 6019, an ordinance accepting the proposal of Central Salt LLC for the sodium chloride rock salt and enhance the icer and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda. The floor is open for a motion approving all items on the consent agenda as amended.
So this is where we wait for the motion and second to appear on the screen.
Just like magic.
Come on, magic. Oh, shoot, the type's so small. There it is. We have a motion and second. Please vote on the consent agenda.
That motion passes 5-0.
Oops, we forgot to call Cody back.
And now he can return. He doesn't get to vote anyway, so we're good.
You ask Alderman Fenton. So, item 10,
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, the next item is the final reading of Bill Number 6020, an ordinance amending Chapter 78, Section 78-125 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to sidewalks to be kept free from obstruction and good repair. The floor is open for a motion to approve the final reading of Bill Number 6020.
Mayor, members of the board, this is,
we need a motion in a second. There we go. We now have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report from Keith Francis. Thank you, Keith.
all right, Mayor, members of the board, this ordinance here was, the code change was brought to you last time. We are asking you to vote this down to give us more time to do some more research and revise the wording in the code itself. We're asking you to vote no for this. Does that answer any questions, or Chris can? Yes, sir.
Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this matter? Alderman Skanes and any other alderman who would just to speak to this?
Verbiage, wordage, reason.
Good question, Alderman. I was listening during the last meeting when Alderman Fenton raised some pretty important issues. A key point is this, is legally, we do have a duty to maintain sidewalks. Also legally, we can shift the responsibility to keep them free and clear of brush, snow, leaves to the property owner, and we can also shift the cost of repair of the sidewalks onto the property owner. I think what we were trying to accomplish with this version is just basically scrapping this all together. So what you're gonna see that's in the pipeline for the 27th is a version that quite simply directly addresses the weed and grass situation. So what the city's practice has been, which is to maintain the weeds and the grass along the right-of-ways, you're gonna see a version that puts that burden onto the city. And also basically restates the common law in the state of Missouri where we have a duty to maintain and repair the sidewalks. So again, we want to make sure that we get the best possible version before the board for consideration. So that's why we're asking that you vote this down, and we have a new version in the pipeline for the meeting on the 27th. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Staff is requesting a no vote, so Alderman, please vote.
The item fails 0-6.
Everyone paid attention.
Yeah, one of us.
Next item,
One
Madam
of
Clerk.
us got close to it.
Your Honor, the next item is discussion of the fiscal year 2020 audit performed by Cochran Hedvick and Company PC for the city of Branson. This item was postponed during the June 22nd, 2021 regular meeting. There is a request to have this a motion to postpone this item to a date not to exceed July 27th, 2021. If somebody wants
I
to.
have a motion from an alderman. Do I have a motion from an alderman?
I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think there's a sentence there.
Hold on.
Mr. Mayor, I move to postpone this item to a date not to exceed July 27th of 2021.
Okay, if you please note, I changed that motion to Alderman Skanes so that it covers him making that. I believe Alderman C had his motion up there, sorry. And we have a second by Alderman Cooper on that.
So we have a motion and a second on the postponement. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak regarding this matter? Any member of the board?
Yes, sir. Is this the misplaced, misdirected letter?
It is.
Okay.
We've since have the final. We just did not have the final at the time of the cutoff, so that's why we are requesting a postponement.
Any other questions from the board? Please vote.
The motion carries 6-0. The item has been postponed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Your Honor, the next item is a presentation by 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District.
We will now have a staff report from Keith Francis.
Mayor, members of the board, I'm just here to do a brief introduction to the next speaker, which is Gail Meyer. I think everyone probably already knows. He's the chairman of the 76 Community Improvement District, Entertainment Community Improvement District. It's a mouthful. Anyway, I'll just turn it over to Gail, and he'll be giving you an update on everything that's been happening out there.
So thank you, Alderman, for the opportunity. It's my understanding that you wanted to have an update on what's going on 76, and it's exciting. I also understand that I'm between you and the All-Star game, so I'm going to be as brief as I can be, okay? But we have a lot to cover. We have a lot to cover. And you should have seen a handout. And the reason you have a handout is because I didn't want to update this until our last board, or until after our last board meeting, because we had several things that we were going to visit about. So first of all, what's our board made up with? And I'm going to try to go into some detail because I know some of you aren't familiar. First of all, Mayor Milton's on the board. He's familiar with tourism and business interests in this community. Bill Skanes is on the board. He's also owned a business on 76 and is well-versed in government operations. Jamie Whitus is on the board. And obviously, he's a representative of a major retail complex. We have 4 stakeholder reps. Steve Presley, who has decades of theater and entertainment knowledge. Brian Casaboom from Dolly Parton Stampede, who has unique food and entertainment experience and representation. Chuck O'Day, who was instrumental in the development of Hollywood Wax Museum and that miniature golf complex and the aquarium at the boardwalk. I represent lodging, and you know, there's no bylaw that says that we should be diverse on our board, but we've endeavored to do that to ensure that all categories are well represented. And I saw Craig Westcott come in, and Craig at one time was on our board too, representing attractions. He was a good asset to that board. And so what I would tell you is all the people on the board, they know how to build and run projects and run businesses, and it's a very good decision-making board. We also have some great support staff that's instrumental in our progress. Keith Francis and Cheryl Harrison in the engineering department have been instrumental in getting us to this point, and they will be a key to the future as we move forward with projects. Jamie Rauch has helped us with reports, understanding grants, keeping us up to date on our progress, and also she is that person in the room who makes sure that we're fiscally sound. Joel Hornickel, he was on our board, and he continues to assist with the project from a planning standpoint. Stan Dobbins, and I will tell you, when Stan came on board, at least for this project, it was a breath of fresh air because he got it. He got what the problems were, and he's helped us to solve the problems of the past and set a foundation so we can have some success in the future. And then John Manning, who will play a huge part in the future as he provides leadership and oversight to this project. And also, Ann McDowell is a contractor to us, and she helps us with stakeholder communications, developing our visual assets, and she helps us is going to help us create the appealing experience on 76. So we have lots of great people involved. So if I can give you the financial context, and I always get lots of questions about the financial context. So we began the CID, and understand that the CID is its separate political entity. I've had some people say, well, you're a subcommittee of the city. Well, that's not true. We are a separate political entity, and we have a cooperative agreement with the city. So the CID began the financial involvement in the project through segment 3. That is from the Ferris wheel to Presley's, generally. And that involved about a little more than 30 property owners. And the district has been expanded to additional 170 property owners. And right now, taxes are being collected. It's a 1% tax. The original CID was formed and had a projected revenue of about $400,000 per year. And the city then spent considerable dollars on construction in segment 3 before a clear funding plan was in place. And the CID came in on the backside and agreed to reimburse the city $9.2 million of the amount that was spent. And there's an agreement in place to pay the city those monies over time at $500,000 a year. So currently that balance is $8,553,000 as of the end of May. The second phase of the annexation was completed and expanded, and that generally goes from the Butterfly Palace to Fritz's. So a large part, almost 5 miles of 76 now is in the district. It's a 1% tax that's being collected in both Phase 1 and Phase 2, and the collections are on track to generate $4.6 million a year. The current CID fund balance is right about $3 million. So, and the CID has agreed to fund further progress on segment 3 as an offset to our debt obligation to the city for the design and the undergrounding of the utilities. That amount we've already agreed to, is to front the city $223,668 for design. And tonight you're going to get the opportunity to approve another $1.675 million that should take care of undergrounding the utilities between generally the Ferris wheel and Presley's Theater. So based on the original plan, which will be updated because the budget is some time ago, the rest of the project segments is a $69 million project. It's a big deal. So let me give you a little snapshot of the project progress to date. Segment 3 is ready for the undergrounding of utilities, and it is hoped that that will be done this coming winter. I think Keith Francis would tell you that it's not a done deal because time is of the essence for us to do it and to order materials. But we'd like to get the power lines down this winter, and we have been working really hard to try to make that happen. And you guys already understand, and I don't want to beat it to death, but part of the barrier of this is based on the pandemic, rightfully so, the city's finance have not allowed them to pay those dollars. So we are paying the dollars as an offset to the amount of money that we owe the city, that original $9.2 million. Time is of the essence. The CID and the city have had substantial discussions about roles and goals moving forward. And that cooperative agreement exists between the city and the CID, and that helps guide our collective efforts. City Council will be asked to approve the design contracts and the funding agreement for underground utilities. And the funding, I think, happens tonight. I think the design contracts start at your next meeting. So we have an RFQ in the can. It's just about ready to go for distribution. For segments 1 and 2. And segments 1 and 2 is from the Ferris wheel west. It would finish the western side of segment 3 along the 76 corridor. The city engineering department has been gathering data and topography in that area in preparation for the next project. CID board has spent time educating themselves about possible grant opportunities and the timeline and the requirements of those grants. The finance department is developing a finance plan for the next project. And in 2017, we developed and consumer tested 6 potential themes, including gateways and other creative features. We're considering an update to those concepts and a refresh of that research very soon. And I will tell you, there's been one change in that. Originally, we talked about icons and gateways, and it became obvious to us that on 76, we already have the icons. So instead, we want to take the money and put it in creative features. And depending on how you slice and dice it, the original thinking was there's about between $7 and $8 million available for those creative features. And really, we've talked about, wouldn't it be great if we had 70 $100,000 features along 76? And that's very exciting. So stay tuned, because we're going to go through the research and that update. And then there will be a community committee of local creative folks that works with a design firm. So what's the significance? Well, city surveys continue to indicate that the residents and guests feel there needs to be a reinvention of 76 Country Boulevard. It was a top priority in the city strategic plan in 2012 and the most recent update, 2019. We all know that 76 is the main artery to the heartbeat of Branson. 76 is famous in the Midwest to our millions of visitors. The project itself is newsworthy. 76 is a desirable place to develop commercial business. The reinvention of 76 is a massive public-private partnership to help ensure the successful future of the primary economic corridor. There is a significant opportunity to increase time, spend, sales tax, and guest experience on the 76 corridor. And we have a great opportunity to enhance and draw attention to live entertainment and attractions. This project is, I believe, the most impactful project for Branson for the next 10 years and has the potential for a huge long-term boost for our economy. Over 200 property owners will be directly affected positively by this project. Many more will be indirectly benefited. Millions of guests will benefit from the improvement, and our residents will enjoy the positives of the project. And you will be able to say that you brought it over the hump to implementation. So we have some future milestones that I want you to watch for ahead. And it begins with the approval of the design and construction contracts, which you're going to start to begin to deal with tonight. Then, hopefully this winter, we underground utilities. We install light poles on segment 3. Then we will hire an integrator to coordinate and administer the future of the project. Distributing the RFQ to the best in the industry with an emphasis on design instead of engineering. And what I've explained to our board is, and I guess I should tell you I'm an engineer, is this is a road project plus creative. And there's lots of people in this country that can do road projects. And it's undergrounding utilities, it's sidewalks, it's a road project. The real expertise is creative. And so the approach is going to be a little different than normal. We're hoping that we use a different Rolodex and we come up with a creative design firm that has a relationship with engineering and approach it from a design firm standpoint. So as we put out that RFQ, there will be reviews, there's going to be interviews, there's going to be finalists, there's going to be stakeholder involvement, and then choosing the right firm. Too many meetings, but that's what it's going to take for us to get the right firm. I think you need to watch for the ability to provide more resources to the city engineering department to ramp up for this project. And then obviously there will be some creative design research and thematic choices. Then we'll see the design of segment 1 and 2 and the creative enhancements of segment 3. We'll develop a finance plan for segment 1 and 2. We actually have maybe the ability to have I think it's $960,000 that MoDOT has got set aside for 76 that we could use in segment 1 and 2. And obviously, that's going to require Alderman approval to do that. Then contracts for that next project. And then maintenance. And you know, we have a tendency, we love the bright and shiny, but we have a tendency to forget about maintaining it. And we got to do a really good job maintaining it. And so what does that mean? Well, that might mean resources such as greenhouses for plants. It might mean more folks just going up and down the street. And obviously, part of the funds have to go to maintenance. So when I say going up and down the street, pulling weeds, mowing lawns, making sure there's watering done, making sure that what we've installed, because it costs a lot of money, is taken care of. And we extend the effective life of the asset. So right behind that is the design of segment 4, 5, and 6. And that is east of the present segment 3. And that's where we will have to make a decision as to whether we're going to go for grants, because the grant process is a long process. And you're never guaranteed to get these grants. And so the conventional wisdom today is that 4, 5, and 6 become those segments that we may be able to fit into the guidelines and actually get some grants. Then it's the grant applications, contracts, and construction. So what about your role? Well, support. Support the project with your approvals, your encouragement, and the resources that the city needs, and give the staff the ability to thrive. And I think that's really important. Give the staff the ability to thrive in this project environment, because it is a big project. It'll be the biggest project that the city's taken on. The cooperative agreement did not anticipate the pandemic. And it's been suggested by both Paul Campo, the CID attorney, and Chris Lebec, your attorney, that we need to make some changes to that cooperative agreement. I don't yet know what they are, but please be supportive when they do come. And then we prepare the city for the related financial obligations, and one of your financial obligations along 76 is water lines. We want to make sure that you have that pre-planning in place for those water line expenditures when we get to the point where we need that to be done. We don't want a rate limiting step, to keep it on track and moving forward. So I appreciate you listening to that. I hope that is helpful to you all. I hope I've covered those things that you want, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Gail. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak to this matter? Please state your name and address.
Marshall Howden, 106 Rose O'Neill. Gail, thank you so much for this presentation. I think we've all been waiting for kind of an update on this. I do have a couple questions that I jotted down because I've been following this project for a long time. Over maybe I would say a year and a half, 2 years ago, I pulled Jamie aside and asked, if I could get a rundown of everything that we spent after change orders, after everything was done. And she gave me, would it be fair to characterize that around 20 million? Is that fair to characterize? Yeah. Give or take, right. So Gail, the idea is that the CID intends to pay about half of that back. Okay, so I think that's important to kind of get on the record. When we talk about the creative aspects of it, the original project, it had so many elements that people got excited about. When we go back into the creative process, is it fair to say that there's going to be an entirely new kind of revitalized vision, or are we going to kind of take a list of things we had before and kind of pick some of those off of there, or kind of start from scratch and have a whole new vision of how we're going to move forward creatively on that?
So the reason that we are paying the 9.2 instead of the 20 is because as a CID, we have rules as well. And there were things that were spent that the CID has had no responsibility for. But we tried to pick up everything we had responsibility for. So the creative process will be threefold. We have research. We have a lot of research. And we will update that research. I think the conventional wisdom is the reason that that's important is we kind of think that the pandemic may have changed some attitudes of some of the people that come to Branson. And then there will be a community group committee of local folks. And if you all, I know many of you are deep into the tourism business, but if you think about some of the folks in this community, we have some world-class creative people in this community. And so we're going to ask some of those folks to be on a committee to help us vet and work with the design firm on the creative. Now, my observation is this. I used to be on the marketing advisory committee for Best Western Worldwide, okay? And every time they would ask us an opinion about creative, all of a sudden everybody became a creative genius. Everybody had their own opinion, okay? And what I would tell you is there's 42 right answers. It's the reason that Budweiser has 3 different ad agencies. And so, but we will do our best to make sure that whatever we do fits into the past discussions along with the research. And I'd be the last person to be on that committee.
So just a couple other things real quick, Gal. So originally when we talked about the gateways, there were all those different 5 themes. And then there was actually a discussion at an Alderman meeting past that point that said instead of going with the 5 disparate themes, we're going to kind of combine outdoor adventures with live music and kind of have that be the theme, combining those 2. Is that still an active thought process on the theming of the whole thing, combining outdoor adventures with the live music element of it?
Yeah, so whatever we come up will be cohesive. Almost every discussion that we had in the past falls into 4 different buckets. And so the approach will be that we will have discussions about those 4 different buckets and see what the commonality is. So my sense is that you'd really like to know where we're headed, and the answer is, I don't think we know yet. We've got to do this based on good research. And I think your example is this. You have a beautiful aquarium in this town, and it draws lots of attention, but as Chuck O'Day would tell you, it's deeply embedded in research. They knew it was successful before they built it, and that's what we want to have happen.
Final thing is that will all 6 segments, if they come together, incorporate the full 5.5 miles of Highway 76? Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, so actually all of the segments are from about Fritz's to the Butterfly Palace. That's the entire project.
Any more questions from the audience? Any questions from the board?
Mr. Mayor, if I can. Mr. Myers, you can thank me for having to miss the All-Star game tonight. I apologize. So.
You didn't do all the talking.
Well, I'm the one that requested that you come and give this update, and I appreciate you doing that. I was in a meeting with Alderman Cooper at the chamber probably a month or 2 ago, and was getting a lot of this information, which a lot of it was new for me in terms of what was going on now. You know, for years you've heard about sort of the mismanagement of this project, previous administration, previous board. I don't think anybody up here was a part of that, but that was sort of the talking point, right? Everybody talked about how that project was overspent and not managed correctly. And so, at the meeting that I was at the chamber, I was encouraged and excited to hear about, now we're doing something with a plan, right? We've got a plan to fund it. We've got a plan to sort of oversee this. And so I thought that was really positive. I noticed in here, in your notes you provided us, you said 76 is the main artery to the heartbeat of Branson. I mean, that could not be more true. I mean, 76 is Branson, right? That corridor, it's why we're all here. It's why we're able to do what we do in the various businesses that we have. And so this is a integral part of our community. And so the things that have taken place and that you're wanting to do are just so important, right? So important going forward in the future and for all the reasons you stated. So there was you said fiscally sound, and I wrote that down. And then you also, there was thought I underlined it, but I guess I didn't. But, you know, the biggest thing with this CID and the thing I just want to say, you know, thank you, and I commend your board and what you guys are doing is you've got this vision and this project, but we're doing it in a way now where it's funded, we've got the money, or you have the money, and we're going to do it the right way. And so I appreciate that, and thank you for this update, and please come back and keep us informed of the progress. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Gail, for taking the ball and getting this thing going. I mean, it is exciting. I mean, when, like you said, when all this started, however long ago that was, and the first team that came to my theater and approached me with blueprints and ideas, and I was like, man, this is cool. And there were some really good ideas out front of each property, and like you say, you're kind of starting over, but based off the stuff, even back then, even though I know that you're starting fresh, is exciting just to see that there's something new and fresh on the strip is awesome. And also, I'm glad you answered my questions. I've been, for about a year or so, I've been going, what, we've been sending this 1%, and I told my wife, I'm like, where do we keep sending this money to? They ain't doing nothing with it. Where's it going? So you answered my question. Y'all have been holding on to that money because you're gonna need it. So it is very cool, and it's exciting to see this all coming together, and I'm just anxious to see it all happen. I know you don't know this right now, but what is the end date, do you think, if you were just ballparking for this to be totally completed?
Well, so kind of depends on the city. We have to have bonding capacity, and right now it's not, I mean, it's a little brutal, but it's not a good time to bond because of the city. And so the hope would be that segment 1 and 2 would have a project winter 22, spring 23. Now, is that segment 1 and 2, or is that just segment 2? We haven't answered that question. I think the hope is it's segment 1 and 2, winter of 22, 23. Okay, so then behind that, could you have a project 23, 24? That would be the hope. And so these guys on the board, they will tell you, I keep pushing for it. We need to do something, we need to do something, we have the money, we need to do something. And so sooner than later, it was originally proposed as an 8-year project, okay? That's changed. We know a lot more now. And my hope is that when it's all said and done, it's a 5-year project. But if we can get it done quicker, we'll try to get it done quicker. I think it depends, obviously it's going to depend on sales tax revenues and our ability to fund the project. And as you said, Alderman Fenton, we got to have a financing plan in place before we put the shovel in the ground. You know, I build hotels. We don't build them first and then try to figure out how to pay for them. So.
Well, the power lines, the day after I got elected, my pastor called and said, when are you going to get the power lines buried? That was my first question, so he'll be excited to hear that, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, and you guys will be instrumental in the timing. You know, I mean, just be supportive.
Mayor, I started attending those meetings first time that I was elected 4 years ago, close to it, and I wasn't on the board, and I was very, very appreciative of them allowing me to come in there. What I've noticed all during this entire process is they're very, very cognizant about the issue of developing that financial plan that we discussed in that last meeting. I think it's very, very important, and I appreciate you mentioning it in the manner in which you have, very succinctly within this scope. Very easy to understand that the taxpayers themselves expect that we're going to be much tighter with a view on that money. But I have a couple questions, but I'd like to make just one more statement. What really caused this thing to get behind was getting the signatures for the businesses out on 76. That's where the rubber met the road, and I think things right now are much more smooth. Needless to say, we had so much pushback within the community about it, and especially after what happened within the first couple of years of that operation. getting those signatures and getting this thing in place was a godsend for the folks the hard work that you put into it, that Stan and the staff made to it, the previous mayors got out there and worked on that, was greatly appreciative. The issue I'm going to take between GARs and Fritz's, is that, where does that play into that? It's, and not to just say anything differently than I have, but it's a rougher looking part of Branson, the first thing that people see.
Yeah, so it's not inside the district, and so we can't spend any money there. Now, I get the fact that we would like to do something from Fritz's to the 65 interchange. But frankly, we looked at where the sales tax revenues come from, and the return on investment in those two segments was terrible. There's not a lot of sales tax revenues in those two segments. So I think your grant money, if we can get some grant money, it will help us, but we'll have to expand the district in order to spend the money there, because we do not, by statute, do not have the ability to spend any money as a CID in that area.
Okay, I think that absolutely need to be clear. And the last thing, Mayor, is a question to the attorney. When we vote on this, do I need to abstain tonight because I serve on that board?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the board? Hearing none, Gail, thank you very, very much. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Your Honor, the next item is the first reading bill number 6021, an ordinance approving the agreement with the 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District for the funding of the undergrounding utilities in segment 3 of West 76 Country Boulevard, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading bill number 6021.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll get a report from Jamie. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Gail really laid it out really well, but what we have before you tonight is a funding agreement between the 76 CID Board and the City of Branson for the undergrounding. It's for the construction cost for the undergrounding of the power lines in segment 3. And so the total amount for that's an estimated cost of $1,675,105, and that is through a reimbursement. So we have laid out for you, even in this agreement, what I would say is that they even took into consideration the change orders up to a 10%, and so that's a total of $167,510. Long time coming, but I think Gail laid the background out really well. Staff recommends approval of this bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any members of the audience have any questions or comments? Members of the board? Hearing none, ready to vote?
Your Honor, that passes 6-0.
Gail, that was a direct benefit of you updating everybody. Thank you very much. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Your Honor, the next item is the resolution approving a special event permit application for the Veterans Day Parade. The floor is open for a motion adopting this resolution.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report from Joel.
Mayor, members of the board, good evening. Per Branson Municipal Code 94-65, we had an application for a special event permit submitted by the Branson Veterans of America Chapter 913. I believe this is our 89th year of this parade being in the community. Very exciting. This year it's being proposed to be on Thursday, November the 11th, to begin at 11 a.m. and last until about 2 p.m. Their application, however, states that they'll need to start setting up the event at 7 o'clock that morning and be wrapped up cleaning up by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The proposed route, you'll see on the screen here, is the same one they've utilized for the last several years successfully. There's always a question, it seems like, with each application about, even though setup will begin at 7 a.m. that morning, if that's a full closure. What we'll do is have partial closures, make sure that parking spaces aren't being utilized in the downtown in that pre-time until the parade starts. And then, as I mentioned, at 2 o'clock, all the streets on this route and parking spaces will be back available to the public. They're anticipating approximately 5,000 participants and spectators at this year's event, not asking for any temporary signage. And then you'll note under the staff report, detailed analysis, we've documented $8,250 in costs from city staff to assist with this event. You all always have the option under Branson Municipal Code Section 94-65H to recoup those costs if you so desire. Staff recommends approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, do we have anybody in the audience wishing to comment or ask questions on this? Seeing none? Any
Coach, we'd already agreed not to charge these people for this project.
I was going to ask the question.
I'm just bringing it up.
Okay.
You don't think we should charge them $8,000?
That's your decision. I'm just sharing the information as we always do with our staff report. It's entirely yours call.
I know this goes into a completely different subject that we'll have discussions on, but I think this is a great example of what this does for our community and the fee structure, right? Because I still question the fees, and I know that'll come up another time, what we charge for special events. I'm glad to hear that staff recommendation is no fees, or staff isn't making a recommendation?
We are simply making recommendation for approval of the request this evening.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Let's vote.
That motion carries 6-0.
Next item, Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Your Honor, the next item is a resolution approving a special event permit application for the 48th Autumn Days Arts, Crafts, and Music Festival. The floor is open for a motion adopting that resolution. We have a motion.
Okay, we have a motion
And a
and a second.
second.
Yeah, we'll get a staff report from Joel. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the board, another long-standing event in historic downtown Branson. This is an application provided to us by the Downtown Branson Betterment Association, or DBBA. They're requesting for this event to occur Tuesday, September the 14th through Saturday, September the 18th, asking for the ability to start setup the Monday before, September the 13th at 10 p.m. And have breakdown completed by Sunday, September 19th by 8 a.m. This, as you see from the graphic here on the screen, it largely is contained within the Albury parking lot. However, they do also close a portion of Commercial Street between the alley behind or to the north of Dix 5 and 10 and Atlantic Street. Again, this is a similar setup that's been utilized for several years successfully. They're anticipating about 100 artisans, food vendors, musicians, and about 8,000 attendees to the event in the downtown area over the course of that week. Asking for a handful of banner signs and yard signs. And again, just simply to point out, in the detailed analysis, staff has identified $560.76 to assist with this event. Staff recommends approval of the request. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Joel. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Any members of the board?
Yes, sir, just one. You know, Matt and David Smith had come to us before, Trokey, and we would not be cutting off any access to the front of their building. It's sort of center of the street south. Am I right on that?
Yeah, so we're talking about Atlantic Street.
Yes.
That was included in the request a handful of years ago, maybe 2 or 3 at this point. And yes, they've revised and never closed Atlantic since that discussion.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
That motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel.
Your Honor, the next item is a resolution accepting the funding from the U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration, EDA, for improvements to the Compton Drive wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $3 million. Floor is open for a motion adopting the resolution.
We have a motion and a second and a staff report from Jamie Rouch.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is a resolution accepting the funding for the third grant that we applied for the wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $3 million through the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. So what we're at right now is a total of $10.7 million for the funding of this. And as you all know, the cost has gone up a little bit to about $14.3 million. So we're right at about 74% of total funding for this project. So we are asking for acceptance of this $3 million so that we can move forward and try and search for the last $3.6 million. That's what we're on target for.
Thank you, Jamie. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Any questions, comments from the board?
Just real quick, I know we've talked, it seems like this has come up the last couple months, and so this is great. You know, we've talked about how important this project is. Do you have, and I think we've known for a little while about this 10.7 million, that this was kind of in the pipeline. Any prospects or any ideas of anything specific for the remaining balance?
I just talked to our consultants today about that. So we do have some prospects. There's not been any formal decisions or anything out there, but there's another pot of funds from CDBG that are back from 2014 that they're looking to try to figure out ways to spend that money so they don't have to like turn it back in. So we're gonna go after some of that money as soon as the formal release has been made, but right now I can't tell you as to when they're going to do that. But we are on target. I mean, it wouldn't be the entire amount of it, but it would be a portion of it, and that's kind of what we're trying to do is chip away at that last little piece.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie, I don't know if this is a question for you or Keith, but with the funds we currently have, are we able to pull the trigger on some of the things that just tend to take a long time, like design, any upfront work?
Well, I'll answer it from the financial perspective. So we're about 3.6 million away from being able to fund the entire one. My viewpoint would be we need to know where the entire amount is coming from, but since we have 74% of it funded, I would say, based on what Stan would say, it should probably be okay. But again, the financial perspective is it would be nice to know exactly where the entire amount is coming from. But I think Kendall could probably speak to some of the smaller things in the project if you want to.
Okay, well, I didn't like that answer, so let me turn this way.
Stan will say that, yes, we will begin the wall project with the design, the engineering. We will begin moving forward because there is also a time frame that we have to use this money by. And secondly, quite frankly, as you know, Mayor, and I'll make sure, I think I said this before, we've had some very good discussions with the governor about some additional funding simply because of the size of our community compared to what we received. And he understands that we are a much larger city than 10,500 people, as well as, yes, if necessary, if it came down to it, we would utilize some of our tourism tax funding to finish off what we would need, our portion of the wall, so to speak. So
Typically, things like this, design and engineering is gonna take 6 months?
Correct.
9 months? I mean, a
that
long
and
time.
I keep saying the project, but the products that are needed to begin the construction part, as well as the seismological studies, or however you say all of that. But you're correct. You're absolutely correct. And so we're going to get moving. We need this for our community. It's important to this community, and we're not going to stop.
I like that answer much better.
The project closeout based on the timeline that we submitted for the grants, is November 30th of 2023. So there is a timeline, and Stan is absolutely right. We have a 3-year timeline based on the first acceptance of the first grant, so we do have to get it done. So I do have the timeline right here if y'all are interested in it, but I just wanted to let you know that the closeout date we have estimated as November 30th of 23.
And so the closeout is November 30th of 2023. That's the 3-year window we have from the date it got funded?
That's the estimated, yes, sir.
November 30th of 2023 is going to happen like next week, right? I mean, it's going to be here.
You're right. The older I get, the quicker time goes, yes, sir.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Well,
Go ahead, buddy, go ahead.
sorry. I mean, I appreciate, you and I kind of laugh because I say you're the glass is half empty, I'm the glass is half full.
A lot of people
And so I appreciate, wanting to be fiscally responsible. I mean, we just talked about the 76 project, right? I mean, we do want to be responsible on this, but I recall Kendall saying, if we don't get this done, and the, nuclear option or the worst case scenario happens, it could cost the city 80 million plus. Yep.
That's
so
correct.
I look at this and say, yeah, I agree. It'd be nice to know where the rest of that money's coming, but I'd much rather spend, worst case scenario, I'd much rather spend 3.6 million than 80 plus million. So I would reiterate what the mayor's saying, and to the extent we can, we've got to get this going.
So let me be clear, I don't disagree with y'all at all. I do know, and we've worked really hard on trying to get these grants. So I totally agree, but that's where my mindset is if we could, it'd be nice, but we're at 74%, which is a huge chunk. So we're thankful for what we have so far.
Mr. Mayor, this is EDA funds we're talking about here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
I know it being assistant director of 2 EDA districts in Arkansas, is that they have a greater propensity to want to extend that project on November of 2023 if you have facilitated the project and has it going versus sitting dead. So agree,
That's
Mayor.
correct.
Getting this thing started is a smart move because
What is the estimated, when does that happen? I mean, when do you officially start then?
We're going to start as soon as you approve this grant, as
Oh,
far as I'm concerned, tomorrow.
Let's
Well,
get-
actually, this is a resolution, so tomorrow, Kendall's been given the, I don't mean anything bad by what I'm about to say, but Kendall has been given the order of build that wall.
I've heard that. Where have I heard that at? Ooh, not going
get
there.
her done. Get her done.
Okay, any other alderman comments?
I got one real quick. So Jamie, may as well talk about all the money that we have, the 10, it's not working for us, right? As far as collecting interest?
The 10.7 million?
Right.
No, we don't have that
So
yet.
basically, we spend it, they cut us a check.
We do a drawdown reimbursement. Yes,
Right.
that's correct. So it's not setting in a fund anywhere, building interest, no.
Good, just for the record.
Sure.
Okay, all in favor of building that wall, it's time to vote.
Jamie's slush fund.
That motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Your Honor, the next item is the first reading bill number 6022, an ordinance amending Chapter 18 Buildings and Building Regulations of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to footing and foundation permits. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of bill number 6022.
Getting a motion and a second, followed by a staff report from Joel Hornicle.
Mayor, members of the board, there's been quite a few conversations over the last couple months about development within the city and making sure that those developments don't get out in front of the annexation process particularly. So we've been going through code looking for opportunities to tighten things up. We were taking several code revisions, recommendations through the Planning Commission. This just happens to be one area of the code that doesn't need their review to bring before you all. And that's in Chapter 18, where largely our building codes are located. From our research, best we could tell, the footing and foundation permit process code first became available as an opportunity for folks in May of 2004. It's largely remained unchanged in our code ever since. Again, this is an opportunity for somebody wanting to begin their project, maybe before they have a building permit in hand, the footing and foundation permit. So long as they provide the city security, they can begin doing foundation work and not be able to continue until they have their permit. Once the permit's issued, then the security is returned to them, and the process goes on like it normally would for any project. What we're proposing this evening is to simply add another subsection to this particular section of code, which does not allow the footing and foundation permit to be issued until a property is inside the city limits or annexed. So what we're trying to say is you cannot use this as an opportunity until you're fully annexed into the city. And we believe that will prevent things from happening that we've talked about, as I said, in the recent months. So with that, staff recommends approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions from the audience? From the board?
I have a comment. First of all, thank you. This is a good start, good first step. However, I don't feel it fully covers the 6-week limbo phase of the annexation, which we discussed at Planning and Zoning at the last meeting. But this is a good start. However, whether something like this was in place or not in place, it doesn't keep a developer from just going out because we've got this. But thank you for getting this started.
You're welcome. And there's definitely more coming, as you pointed out and mentioned about the Planning Commission taking a review, and look forward to that discussion continuing in August.
So one thing I noticed when I read through this is it didn't prevent somebody from actually pouring footings if there was a pending zoning change. Would we want to put a caveat in here that it also would have to have the current zoning before they can start?
It was something we definitely talked about as we were going through this. A property upon annexation is zoned agricultural, and there's a lot of uses, a lot of structure types that can be built on an agricultural zoned piece of land. So tying a zoning piece to this, in our mind, didn't make sense because you're really handcuffing somebody from developing their property if they want to remain under the agricultural zoning.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that whatever the zoning is for that property at the time, they can start pouring footings, but if there was a zoning change, they would have to wait for approval before they started pouring footings.
Sure, and there's a lot of other things that go into that review based on the zoning type, setbacks, lot area, on and on and on. But again, we believe that simply tying it to annexation will achieve the goal that we heard from you all over the last previous months about not allowing development to start out in front of a certain process.
Would this have prevented our debacle out at Friendly Hills?
It's one piece, as Alderman Denham pointed out. There's other code changes we're proposing in Chapter 94 that will assist with this to do a much better job of addressing those concerns.
And we'll be seeing those,
We just need the Plan Commission's recommendation before bringing them to you all, since it's within Chapter 94. This just was the one opportunity outside of Chapter 94 that we could bring to you all before the rest of the package.
Very nice.
So this is a different piece of that puzzle. I mean,
Yeah,
what the mayor's talking about is not in this particular.
Yep. In Chapter 94, for example, we have codes that address annexation process, the zoning process, the land disturbance process, and those are all currently being reviewed by the Planning Commission right now. And those will go hand in hand with what this is trying to accomplish. It's just the ability to get this in the books as quickly as possible.
Sure.
We wanted to not have any delay on it.
Thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board?
Mayor, I'm a little confused on this because what is going to preclude an entity from building out in the county exactly what they want to build, pour whatever footings they want to be able to do, to be able to bypass this process?
Well,
and then say, hey, Joel, we want in the city.
Yeah, and obviously, we will continue to do our job as the professional staff when presenting an annexation request before you all with all the information as to, if there is something actively being built on the property, if there's any plans for the property, on and on and on, and present that to you all. And then it's really a decision for you to make whether or not to annex that property. if somebody is already well underway with development, or if they've done something previous to the request that you all aren't happy with. I mean, that really comes down to the decision of whether or not to annex that property.
I can just smell it coming down is all. That's it.
Sure. Any other questions from the board?
May I?
Yep.
Joel, and I don't know if you have these numbers or not, what impact does this have on development? I mean, how many developers were applying, and again, I'm not looking for a specific number, but just in general, do you have a lot of developers that were applying for the footing and foundation permit prior to annexation? Is this gonna have a big impact? Are we gonna have developers say, well, I can't bring it in the city now because you're impeding the process?
No, I don't have exact numbers, but the footing and foundation is rarely utilized as an opportunity during the building process or development process. It exists in code, but very, very few people actually utilize it just because of the security requirement and the timing of it. You can simply, if you have a team that knows what they're doing, you can provide the necessary information for a building permit and get that process taken care of just as efficiently. And then you're not spending the extra money on additional permit fees, the security, and on and on and on. So to answer your question, very few people utilize it, and honestly, this is the way it should be handled, that it's very clear you can't get this permit until you're annexed.
Well, when I read it, it kind of made sense to me, but I don't know. I don't build stuff, so.
Yeah, trying to get code more clear is always a good thing.
And my next question, I guess, is for Alderman Denham. You mentioned something about a 6-week period with annexation. Can you explain what you were talking about there?
Sure. Voluntary annexation consists of, and the minimum time is 6 weeks, consists of someone signing the paperwork for annexation, 2 weeks because it would have to be advertised, public hearing, and then 2 weeks after that, a final hearing. That is, best case scenario. That's a limbo time. And I'm going to make some comments during the comment section at the end of the meeting regarding our planning and zoning board meeting and some steps I have taken, because I am going to, hope to make some suggestions to work forward, because we definitely have a limbo time. We definitely have a time where city and county are going like this, and it's not fair because the citizens are the ones that are picking up the tab on that. So we definitely need to find a way to have a solution for that.
So do you think this negatively impacts that annexation time period, or does it? I'm just curious how this relates to that.
I don't feel this negatively impacts, but we also have other codes that some developers have chosen just to disregard, and the city and the county start pointing fingers at each other, and neither one follow up on it. So they're just disregarding the rules, that's all.
If I may, Alderman Fenton, so an applicant has every ability to apply for a footing and foundation permit prior to annexation being complete, and they could do so within that 6-week window. What this code is proposed to do is ensure that that permit is not issued until annexation is complete. But they can absolutely apply for that permit before.
Yeah, and I understand that. I guess going back to my question, I'll ask it again. I know you answered it, but now that we're saying, well, you got to start you got to complete the annexation process, so you got to wait another 6 weeks before you can apply for this. Is that going to have any sort of impact negatively? And I guess with planning, you can sort of anticipate, hey, I got to do this, but are we going to negatively impact development by saying, well, now you got to wait 6 weeks before you can start moving dirt and doing some of the things you need to do?
Developers should always check in with us before they get going and sit down with us and understand the process and the requirements. That's what we're here for, is to help them through that process. And we've had a lot of success with it being done the right way and not hampering development. And I believe that's the way it's best to do, is the right way. And so we're completely supportive of this change and don't believe it's going to have a negative effect on development going forward.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else? Let's vote. Want to make an announcement. If we're not careful, we will end this meeting before 8 o'clock. Surely we can do something to disrupt that.
We got to beat up Craig first.
Thank you.
The motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is the first reading of Bill Number 6023, an ordinance approving the contract with Track Branson Propco 2 LLC for the sale of real estate and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of Bill Number 6023.
We have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report from Chris Lebeck.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. This is a ordinance request to approve a sale of a property. The City of Branson owns a small chunk of property. It's about 0.684 acres. It's located right smack in the middle of the Track 3 property, which Mr. Westcott's group owns. We commonly refer to it as the well lot. If the board recalls, a couple months ago, we negotiated an agreement with Track Propco 2 to basically reassign their lease. This is a second piece of that where they've approached us wanting to buy that piece of property for some development work. So with regards to that request, we sought an appraisal, tried to place a value on this piece of property. The appraisal came back at $67,700. Track offered us $70,000, so we bring this real estate agreement before the board for the board's consideration. We do recommend approval of this because right now it's basically a storage shed. We don't use it for much of anything at all, and it's landlocked. So happy to answer any questions. Mr. Westcott is here as well for the board to beat up if the board so desires.
Are there any questions or comments from the audience?
Marshall Howden, 1060 Rose O'Neill. So this seems to be a carve-out, unique spot. Chris, you're talking about just having a storage facility on it, but there's been a lot of talk in the past, including what I brought up a couple months ago about perhaps putting it all up for sale, including the Hughes Theater property and all that. So would the same request be met if the Hughes family came and wanted to buy their portion of the parcel that the city owns, commonly known as the old airport project?
My opinion is any property that somebody would like to purchase, if they approach the city, we would have an executive session and discuss the opinions of the board. Is that fair?
Fair enough with me.
Any other questions, comments from the audience? Questions from the board? Stan, I had one question, and I know we're at the 11th hour on this.
It's okay.
And I'm not going to die on this hill. The property appraised at $1.98 a square foot, and I just recently learned that a city's looking for a property to build a storage area for our 76 CID project. Would this property, I know it's 0.6 acres, and I know it has an easement, but would this property satisfy that need, or are we gonna sell this and then go have to buy another piece of property?
What we're hoping for, and I'll just put this out there, quite frankly, this property, we will outgrow it for the need of the entire 76 CID. Personally, and it's a discussion that it's kind of an odd discussion. I think Gail left already, so I'll say it. Maybe, I'm hoping he's not listening. But I personally think the 76 CID should assist with that purchase. And I also think that if we really have the opportunity and it's really kind of, you all noticed this earlier. The CID is now more of a cooperative venture between all of us.
Yes.
And I see Clay shaking his head, who happens to be in there. Maybe he has a certain piece of property he'd be willing to donate, but no.
Can I be excused?
I didn't see that.
But I would like, that would be our, that's kind of been my direction. Let's first off, talk to the folks out there, see what we can come up with. We currently are housing the equipment at our local garage, and we can continue to do that, our local garage area. We would like to get it closer to the 76 CID, and I think we will have that opportunity. And I think that it will not cost us what we are selling this piece of property for.
That is on the record, just so you know. Okay.
I understand.
Because I know, I mean, this property was close proximity, what we're looking for and all that. I was a little concerned about the size, if it would accommodate, but I just want to throw it out there. Sell this for 70, and then we go buy something for 200. No worries, Craig. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Clay's donating the property anyway, so don't worry about
Clay needs a bigger parking lot to park all of his RVs. Okay, you ready to vote?
it. Cold-blooded, Mayor.
Let's vote.
The motion carries 6-0.
Very nice. We are now in the report section of the meeting, and we'll start with Alderman Denham.
Thank you, Mayor. On July 2nd, I attended the Together for America event with Governor Mike Parson, and our Representative Brian Seitz attended and spoke as well, and other elected officials, and I'm not going to steal their thunder so they can share their part. But it was just a wonderful event at the Pierce Arrow Theater, and a huge wall banner on the side of the theater is a must-see if you've not had the opportunity to go see it. Also, I attended the Concerned Women for America meeting this morning, and the discussion of critical race theory was what we were highlighting on today. And they're suggesting that if you would like to, please contact Governor Parson to request his support via legislation against this curriculum in the Branson School District. So if I can provide any information, or just go to his website and make sure that you get something sent to him handwritten, would be really great to do. Lastly, the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on July 6th, one of the items was amendments to Chapter 94 of the Branson Municipal Code. The item was discussed, and it was postponed until our August meeting. Focus on two sections of the code that were a concern to me was the annexation process that we currently have, and the fact that currently in the entire city of Branson, we do not have single-family residential zoning any longer. So if there's duplexes can be put up on single-family residential with 6 dwelling units per acre, up to 6 dwelling units per acre. So if you do live in the city limits and you have a home and you feel that it's residentially zoned, single-family zoning, it doesn't exist anymore. So that is huge. That's a property right. It's been taken away, so I would like to have more discussion on that. The other with the annexation, with the discussion of the Planning and Commission Board, it was suggested, I made a suggestion because we really do need to clean the loophole up of the 6-week time frame. It goes longer, and it's usually in honor of the developer and not the surrounding homeowners, so that they can clear the property and not have to abide by the rules that others abide by that develop in this area. And it was mentioned that maybe the Board of Aldermen and the Taney County Commissioners could have a joint meeting to discuss the situation, to see what we can do to close up this loophole. I I'm a firm believer in the chain of command, and so I contacted the planning director at Taney County. He was on vacation last week, so I was able to speak with him Monday. And he, I believe he will meet with me on Thursday or Friday this week, just so that I share some ideas, and then hopefully he can share some ideas that he thinks will be helpful, because currently the city, I personally believe, looks bad, the county looks bad, and as a community, I feel we really need to work together so that our citizens can benefit from it. And there will be no questions as to what the proper process is. So we will see as we move on how this can be solved, and we don't have to go through this every single time a developer does not want to abide by any of the guidelines, city or county. That's it, thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Gaines.
Yeah, I want to agree with Ruth on this. Rick Ziegenfuss from over in Hollister also suggested some conversation, so I think it's wise to move on that direction. The first part of my report is that I am on the board for the, I guess you'd call it the Hollister Airport over there, College of the Ozarks. Current fuel prices, $5.05 for 100 low lead and $4.40 for Jet A. June showed a financial gain of almost $14,000 compared to that of $12,635 in 2020. Year to date, they showed a gain of $10,980. I'm just saying that to say this: they've seen a huge increase in the amount of activity at the county airport out there. Huge increase. And they've taken up all the available space as far as the hangars go. There's no more hangar space even out there. And here a couple of years ago, we were talking when I was on the board, and you served on it as well, Mayor. They were kind of worried about what they were going to do. That's right. They finished all the road work out there. The place looks extremely nice. They're getting a new HVAC system in there that broke down, it seems like, in the 1930s. And it's just now going to be replaced. But I have the financials if you guys want to see it, and always will have them available for you. Today I attended a very unique thing, because one of the jobs that I have is Executive Director for Workforce for the area of the Workforce Board, the chief elected officials. And Nichols' group over there at the Branson Academy of Advancement of Music and Theater worked jointly together with our people out of Springfield and had approximately 40 to 50 employers in interviewing from Silver Dollar City to IMAX, City of Branson, the Welk Resorts, veterans reps, basketball groups. It was absolutely wonderful. There's going to be another one that will be on August 17th that I would ask each one of the aldermen to be able to go and attend and go in there and talk with employers and exactly what their needs are, and let them tell us face to face. I did invite them to come in here to this facility. They felt a little bit intimidated by it, and what they might say, they'd like to have some straightforward conversations with us of things that we may wind up doing, which I don't know what they are, but they have opinions in order to help them out, because just the lifting of the unemployment insurance restriction did not trigger the flood that everybody expected was going to happen. And there's Clay and I had the conversation today. You can hire how many more people right now?
I'd take a dozen right now.
Multiply that by all these other businesses out here. We got to be able to find a way to help them out on that. So, Mayor, that's my report.
When is the next one, you said?
August 17th.
And is it over at the Meadows?
It will be over at the Meadows. A lot of veterans groups are in there. They opened it up for an hour or so in advance to allow the veterans to come in to have sole access to everybody in there, because they do get veterans preference. And it wasn't well attended by the veterans, and that's disappointing. It really is. I think we have to do a better job getting the information out. Use our public information officer here to help them out a little bit, and maybe go on KRZK, KOMC, or whatever other things that we need to go on to help these people get back in the job market.
Thank you, Alderman Gaines. Alderman Cooper?
I don't really have a big report or nothing tonight, but I attended the event at Pierce Arrow, and it was awesome. Alderman Fenton was there, even though I didn't announce him. Sorry about that. I didn't know you was there.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
That's okay. The mayor was there, Alderman Denham, Senator Moon, State Representative Seitz was there, the governor, Billy Long, and it was just it was a really cool event, and all of them got up and spoke, and I just felt like it was a great gathering of faith and family and honoring our American flag, and it was in the time that we're in right now, it was a good gathering to see a bunch of patriots and honoring the flag. So I was proud to be a part of that. That's all.
Alderman Fenton?
Well, I've had the honor of attending the priority-based budgeting process at the Finance Committee. And let me tell you, if you haven't attended that, it's the event of the year. So
It's like going to see the doctor in your body.
it's exhilarating stuff. And fortunately for me, we get to do it again on this coming Monday. So
4 hours wasn't enough, so we get to
I definitely didn't have my fill of it. So thankfully, I get another go this coming Monday. So thank you, Jamie. That was quite the process. The other thing is, and this is for the folks that regularly attend the meeting, looking at you, Marshall, our next board meeting will be my birthday. So if you need a list of birthday gifts, ideas, feel free to reach out to me. Mr. Mayor, I expect a cake. Just a real celebration that night. So there you go. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Alderman Whitus?
He's registered at Tanger, so you can come see me and buy a bunch of gift cards. No, I will ditto Alderman Fenton on the financial meeting, and that we have another one coming up. But that is it's a long, tedious process, but it is very important. And just how the funding goes and how we, that whole group on the Finance Committee rates the different projects and stuff, and there's several different categories and when they come to the final answer, but that's all I have.
Alderman C?
Nothing for me. I skated all week. I mean, I was out of town, so I did miss that meeting though. Maybe I'll make the next one. Nothing here.
Administrator Dobbins?
I would just remind everybody that those meetings are live streamed to the public. So you too can enjoy them. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
That is funny. I have a couple things. Alderman Denham, I agree with you. I really would like us to pursue that single-family residence zoning. And I know you and Alderman Skanes mentioned this board meeting with the Taney County Commissioners. Stan, when we do that, would that be an opportunity for the entire board? I know we'd have a quorum.
Yes, we just have to put it in the paper that you're going to have that. It would be open to the public, but it'd be a work session, basically. So we can do it.
Would
The
you?
joint meeting.
Yeah, would you coordinate that? Because that'd be a very, very healthy meeting.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you. Had an opportunity at the Pierce Arrow Theater. I met a lady named Linda, and she's a senior. I was asking about job opportunities, and I was sharing with her the position that our city's in as far as shortage of workforce. And I suggested to her, I said that I believe that the concept of this, we have a lot of seniors in our community, and what a great opportunity it would be if some of the seniors would like to work part-time, couple hours a night, maybe a few days a week. You all know this, but in our tourism community, we have some real peak demands. When you think about theaters, right, when the doors open, they need a host to help take tickets and help find seating. Concessions, restaurants have peak times, that time, right before shows, a couple hours before shows. So we have several segments of businesses in our community that they may not need that employee 40 hours a week, but man, they have a real high surge during certain hours. And and what Linda shared was, she thinks that some of the seniors would appreciate that, because some want to get out, they want to engage, they want to, they don't want to work 40 hours, but they would enjoy that, plus get paid for doing that. And so Linda reached back out to me and asked how she would like to head this project up. So I'm throwing it out there to the public. If you have an interest of maybe getting with Linda and helping her form a group to see how to spread the word with the seniors, find out which employers would be wanting to do that. I know it's not going to make a dent in our labor crisis, but I think it may be a good match for a little bit of that crisis. I did have an opportunity to spend time with Governor Parsons and Congressman Billy Long at Pierce Arrow Theater. I will say that when Stan and I met with the governor, we talked about the imbalance of how state funds are distributed throughout the state based on population. He clearly understood it. He was sitting next to one of his assistants, and they were taking notes, and he seemed very interested in that. And so when we're at the Pierce Arrow Theater, I'm on stage. Governor Parsons is in the front row. So I bring this topic up again, just to remind him that we have a high degree of interest in that. I see Governor Parsons at the Cantina on July 3rd for the fireworks. I bring it up to him again, and he kind of puts his hand in his head. I go up, I'm getting ready to go up on stage in front of the fireworks to talk to 27,000 people. So I mentioned to Governor Parsons, I said I could bring this up again on stage. That would give him 27,000 people that would support this, and it would take some political pressure off of him. He said, so you're doing this for me. So I just want to report that we are fighting really, really hard to get some of those dollars headed our way. I want to acknowledge our State Representative Brian Seitz is in the audience with us. Representative Seitz attended all of our meetings with Governor Parsons and Congressman Long. I appreciate you coming and staying involved with our city. We have much to do, and I appreciate your support. And it is 8:12. Do we dare adjourn? Yes, we do. Do I have a motion? Need a motion to adjourn. Wow. Oh, I was waiting for the verbals. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning, please vote.
It passes 6-0.
I know we just adjourned. Jason Wirt is our new reporter at the Branson Tri-Lakes News. I wanted to welcome him. He's going to be the new reporter for the city, and he's excited to get very involved with us. Welcome, Jason. Wow.